Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live today. Hi, Debbie Lowe. I was just talking about you this morning with Ron. I got to get a hold of you about something, so you'll be hearing from us soon. So great to see everyone. Glad you guys are joining us. Very excited about my special guest today, and know you're going to get a lot of very practical, great information from my friend Valorie Burton. In the meantime, I want to welcome you. I am doing a series all this week for Mother's Day, wanting to highlight different moms telling different aspects and stories of their journey through motherhood. Everyone has such a different, hi Shannon Morocco in Hawaii. Now that's my girlfriend right there. She is, we don't care about the time zones, right, Shannon? We're always connected. But great to see everyone. And the reason I wanted to do this Mother's Day series is to focus on some aspects of motherhood that aren't always the typical. I know from my own journey has been very different in my motherhood journey than what I thought it would be. And I think there are a lot of moms out there, a lot of daughters, a lot of friends, even stepdads who confront different aspects of maternal love and motherhood. And so I wanted this whole week to feature some of those different perspectives. Trinity, so good to see you, girlfriend. Oh my goodness. I hope you get back to New York soon and we can hook up. Trinity has been doing our Love Your Life with us in New York when she lived there. And even my sweet husband jumped on. He's right here in the kitchen. So I'm glad he's on with us. But anyway, I hope that this series on motherhood will encourage you guys. We're doing a combination of a few lives this week, which I always post on my YouTube channel. When they're done under Love Your Life Dailies, you can click on my link in the profile and find a variety of these that we've done over the last month. And then we do a few of these lives, which also in turn can be posted for, as you guys know, a 24-hour period. And then we shift them over to my YouTube channel. So you can join those as well. So I'm going to see if I can bring in my dear friend, Valorie Burton. She may not have hopped on yet, but she will any minute. And so I'll wait for her to join. But how are you guys? How are you gearing up for Mother's Day? It's coming this Sunday. We actually had our youngest son and daughter-in-law arrive last night, kind of unexpectedly. They had their power go out in Nashville, of all things. And if you've read about it or seen it on the Weather Channel, Nashville had a major storm 3 days ago, and they have been out of power for 3 days. So we all said, hey, come on over. They made the drive, and we're all hanging out and having a good week together for a few days until they get ready to come back. But we were talking about Mother's Day, and Libby's like, I forgot that it was Mother's Day this weekend. So it can sneak up on us, especially now during all these crazy Corona days, which seem to shove everything together. I can't even believe we're in May already. It feels like I'm stuck back in March, thinking that this will all be over very, very soon. But here we are, and we're going to celebrate it the best we can and wait and see how things progress over the next couple months. It'll be June before we know it. Angela, great to see you, my friend, my dear friend Angela from our church in New York City, our neighbor there in Midtown Manhattan. And glad that you could join us, Angela. So my friend Valorie, who's going to be on in a minute, we had a little mix-up yesterday, and she thought she was supposed to be on yesterday. It was my fault. And but she was fortunately available today, so she's going to hop on in a minute. And yes, Angela, come home soon. I know we want to. We keep wondering. We kind of got stuck. And there's Valorie. I'm going to bring her in. But we kind of got stuck. For those of you who've been following along with me, we got a little bit stuck in North Carolina. We have a home in North Carolina where we've lived our whole married life, but we've been living full-time in New York City. And we kind of got stuck here on spring break and decided to just stay put rather than get back and be quarantined in New York City. So anyway, we're waiting for Valorie to join. She's on now, and I can't wait to talk to my friend Valorie. Hi, Valorie.
Hey, this is the first time I've done this. That looks great.
Oh,
Except for this hair sticking out right here. Okay.
Okay, girlfriend. Well, that is good to know that I'm leading you in one area, which is rare. You're usually you're leading me in about every other area, but you look great.
Thank you. So do
How
you.
are you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How's everything in your house? Tell us where you are and what you're doing right now.
Right in this moment, I am in my basement office. We happened to just finish the basement right before this whole pandemic thing happened. So, I moved a whole bunch of stuff from my office just this weekend. So we're getting everything kind of organized. And I have a different, better spot, but we have an IT person working on something back there. So it was going to get a little noisy.
Oh, I get it. It's all about flexibility right now, isn't it?
Yep.
We had,
And my son's right above me, Lynette. So who knows? You
who
might hear
knows?
stomping or who knows.
He he is so cute. How old is he now?
He's 6. He's in kindergarten. He's finished his schoolwork for the day. So he's playing some PBS games, which is always fun. And he keeps asking me for advice. And I'm like, I where find your dad. I don't know how to do the video games.
So I forgot that he is the same exact age as our twins.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the girls are 6. They're in kindergarten. They're 6.5 in the summer. And so we have the same routine. They usually finish about noon. They take a little break. Then they have a reading group. But I don't know if you're open to arranged marriages, but we can talk.
We'll have to chat. No, it's actually working out. At first it was such a big change. It
Oh,
was like for everybody, it felt very chaotic. And then the school decided to do like a daily morning, live Zoom, if you can imagine,
we've
live
got the
Zoom
same thing.
with
Yeah.
kindergartners. And at first I was like, how are you going to assign me a meeting at 8:30 every day? But it turned out to be really good because it gave us routine and okay, he knows he has to be up by this certain time. He gets to see his teachers and
Yeah.
his friends. And it actually helped us to get more organized. But in the very beginning, boy, all of
Oh, I
that
know. I mean,
posting
it's
and
just there are
yeah.
so many levels, and that's one of the things I want you to talk about, and I want us to chat about a little bit today. Is you've written so much, and I encourage everyone visit Valerie's website. It is so stocked full of resources and tools and inspiration. I mean, you have one of the best websites out there, and I got to be
Oh,
honest. I
thank
look at
you, Lynette.
you do. I mean,
That
it
means a
is
lot.
so, I
Thank you.
love the variety. I love that it's very centered around the viewer and the visitor and not just you. I don't get the feeling like it's here I am with all my stuff. It's really tuning into the person that's coming to check out your resources. And I love everything you do. I'm such a long-term fan. I think you and I met, didn't we speak at the same conference years ago or something?
Yes, we met because I was hosting. John Maxwell used to do a women's um, simulcast called Thrive.
Yes.
And I don't remember what it feels like. It was had something to do with John Maxwell and Thrive and some people at his organization that we met through. And then you invited me to
Yes.
speak at your church in New York. I think I might have spoken twice. It was amazing
Yes.
because you just got such a talent. You've got a pool of talent there in New York. It was one of the most amazing women's conferences I have ever been to. And then you also connected me with the folks at one of your campuses in DC. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yes, that's
Cynthia
right.
Fuller. Yeah.
Brett and Cynthia. And then I know you've been to Jacksonville, to our church in Jacksonville, our Every
Oh,
Nation Church.
that's right. Yeah, a
Debbie
couple of times.
Austin. She always tells me, this is always a compliment. She says, Lynette, you and Valorie Burton are my 2 favorite speakers. So I always feel like I'm in good company.
Well, so am I.
But you've been doing so much. You've had such a fascinating journey. And even we've talked many times about our motherhood journeys and how different they were
Yeah.
through the years than maybe what we expected. And this whole series that I'm doing this week is a combination of lives and a combination of Zoom calls that I'm putting on my YouTube channel. But I wanted to talk about different aspects of motherhood that aren't always the traditional views. And you and I both have been working moms for many, many years.
Mhm.
And we love the flexibility because we have our own business and all of that. But I'd love you to talk a little bit. You have a couple books out that where you talk about successful women speak differently or successful women think differently. And I'm wondering if you're finding in this corona situation that we find out, we're all, like you said, chaotic in some degree, we're working from home. Have you found any things that are coming as new revelations to you about successful moms work differently now? Or how do
Yeah.
you see some of your philosophies and thinking and tools that you've developed over the years coming to play in the uniqueness of what we're living through right now?
Well, first of all, in both of those books and even the follow-up Life Coaching for Successful Women, I define success as a harmony of purpose, resilience, and joy. And a lot of times we think of success in these very external terms, but I think you have to define it. So purpose is, what are you here for? How are lives better because they cross paths with you? It's different for each of us, and we have different divine assignments in different seasons. And I think that's really important to note, because we can feel resistant when something like, what we're all going through right now changes everything.
Disciplining myself to say, Lord, what are you thinking about this right now? And just waiting and letting my spirit hear from the Holy Spirit and hear from what God's saying in a very practical way, making decisions not out of my sort of routine that I'm used to, because it's really just not working the same way anymore.
Nope, it's not. And I think that's the thing. This is an opportunity to get quiet, to be still, to listen more than we normally might because of all the movement and things that we're doing. And I really believe that for many people, the amazing amount of change, the enormous amount of change is going to cause people to see their lives differently. I don't think everybody's going to go back to what life was before, because after seeing what change can create, whether it's more time with family, or I don't think we're going to see everybody going back to the office. I think we're going to see more businesses working remotely. I don't think every kid's going to go back to regular school. I think some families are going to say, maybe it would be better for us to homeschool, while others who thought they want to homeschool are like, nope, that's not for us.
Isn't that true? Oh my goodness.
And then just the family time. And I think it's also important, I'm going to say this with, everything going on. We do focus a lot on what's going on with families. But it's important to note, the biggest shift in demographics in the last 50 years in our country is the rise of the single person household, which is in a lot of major cities is close to 50% of households. One person lives there, one person. And so I think it's also important for us to note how that impacts people who aren't in a house with other people, because it's very easy to note how hard it is to homeschool kids, or people who are like, okay, I heard someone yesterday say, this is day 52. It's just me and my husband. They've been married for decades. She's like, this is different. But it's also, I think, especially hard on people who, they're not worried about whether they're having to deal with all the other people in the house, but having to deal with the isolation of not seeing someone every single day. And so I think there's not a lot of talk about what that looks like. And there's some people close to me who are, in the house alone. And it's been hard, and I'm not just talking about people who are older. I'm talking 20s, 30s, 40s, that it's, there's a lot. So we have to remember everybody in this, because everybody has their own challenge in the midst of this.
I could not agree more. I was thinking last night, I just slipped away for about a 20 or 30-minute walk. No, I know it was about 9 p.m. last night. And it was the first moment I'd had pretty much all day to just sit and do whatever I wanted to. And I was trying to catch up on a few things and just think about today. And I thought to myself, all I want right now so desperately is to have one day all to myself where I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not cooking for anybody. I'm just, and it is not because I haven't loved it in one dimension. It's just that I was longing for it. And then it hit me that there were so many years as a single woman when I wanted the opposite. And it brings me back to that truth that I've talked about for so many years, is celebrate the season. Celebrate where you're at, because it can change on a dime. And it does change on a dime. So often we go into those suddenlies. I love in the scriptures where it talks about suddenly this or that happened, and it wasn't suddenly in the scope of history, but it was suddenly when the time was right
That's
and
right.
the circumstances were right. And so kind of that celebrating the season of is what I hear you saying. It's like if we're at home and we're shoved in with our husband and kids and it's a little bit chaotic, celebrate it because there are gifts that are coming from it. On the other
Yeah.
hand, if you're alone by yourself, it's a great time to just focus and go inward and ask God to give you new revelation. And I look back over my journals that I wrote so many years full of truth
Oh, I've got a big
when I was
stack.
just me and God, right?
I do. I go back and read them sometimes. It's interesting, but yes, at every stage. And I think both you and I were 40. You were 40
Yeah, 42.
when you got married and you had I call mine my bonus daughters. You have a
Right,
bonus
my
son
bonus
too.
sons, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and so during those times before then, it's always
Yes,
easy to look at, well, when this happens, and that was something I had to stop myself from. I talked a lot about I'll be happy when this happens, when I can have life be exactly
yes.
what I wanted it to be. At that time, I really wanted happy marriage. I wanted kids. It was just in my heart. It was something and I tried not to want those things because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't control getting them. But that prayer didn't happen.
Isn't that so true too? With these things that, and isn't it inevitable that people, I don't know if you heard this, but I heard this a lot when I was single. Well, as soon as you can lay down the desire and not want it as much, that's a bunch of bunk. I mean,
Right.
really,
So now it's
it's,
your fault because you have not surrendered it. I mean, we can really be hard on people. I think particularly on women, because
yes,
there's so many expectations. And if you are a woman who has pursued her career, pursued her education, and you don't have the marriage and the family, there are always those questions that can leave you feeling that no matter how successful and purposeful you are, that somehow there is something missing. And I think it's
yes,
very important for us to understand that God has something different for each one of us. And we have to define what success looks like in our lives. But there are messages, I think, in particular for women, that you have to keep pushing against. The church doesn't really speak to women in terms of our work. It mainly speaks to women as moms and as wives. So if you are not a mom or you're not a wife, you can sometimes feel like somehow you're not doing the thing you're supposed to do. And it's not even biblical. It's
right.
cultural. And so I love to support women who are feeling some of those pressures. It can add guilt, it can add anxiety, and it can cause you to feel like you're not seen. Um, and I think as women of faith, we have to help all of us feel seen and feel valued and to understand we have purpose, and everybody's purpose doesn't look the same. And that's
Yes.
okay. In fact, I think it's a good thing. So yeah, don't get me started on all of that.
Oh,
I just
we're
finished.
singing the same song on all that.
Yeah,
I mean, living
yeah,
in
and
New
I
York
think both of
City,
us really experienced that firsthand of feeling those
yes.
pressures. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. We have. And I don't know if you feel this in this way that I like to put it, but I woke up after I got married and was so thrilled. Of course, it was so long awaited, but I was just surprised how much the dailies pretty much felt the same as they had felt before. Now I had different responsibilities, but I always say it comes down to this, right? You and God, and where your soul is and where your heart is, and the feeling of divine assignment, whether that's in the workplace, whether it's with my kids or as a mom. I look back now and I honestly can say that all of the roles that I've had, single for most of my life, married for the last 15 years, and as a mom, I have found equal amounts of meaning in all of it. I believe that God has honored all of it. And so, whatever season someone's in, really embracing that. And like you said, not thinking about, well, I'll be happier when such and such this happens.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have happier moments, but overall, I don't think happiness is like that. I think it's much less circumstantial and much more about knowing who we are and what our purpose really is.
You know what? And from my perspective with the work I do, we know that's true biblically. Learn to be content no matter my circumstances, right? But also from a research perspective. I mean, when they look at happiness, about 50% of it is just how you're born. Like some people just
Wow.
have more of that happy energy. 40% of it is what you choose to do every day, how you choose to think, connect with other people, serve people, playing, like just having fun. I mean, the things that you do daily, exercising. I mean, just exercising for 20 minutes can cause you to feel happier for up to 24 hours. Just 10% of it, the research shows, is your circumstances. And so
Amazing.
we often think happiness is about what happens, but that's not actually true. And so I think it's a huge lesson to not wait to be happy while when you get what you want, but instead to choose to be happy while you're on your way to whatever that vision is, because
I
that's
mean,
most of life
that's
is the
amazing
journey,
that
right?
10%,
10%. Yep.
10%, that's wild.
Yep. Yeah, it's called the happiness pie. 50% genetic, 40% what you choose to do every day, how you choose to think, and 10% what happens.
So what
It's
do you
all
tell
attitude.
people, Valorie, with the part that's genetic?
Hmm.
If you happen to be in the plus side, you're born happy in your genetics, that's one thing, right? But what about the people who aren't, who would fall into the other category? What has your work shown you has the biggest impact, perhaps, on affecting or kind of counteracting, if you would, that piece of your genetics?
So the really good news is that since 40% is intentional choices, being very intentional about the choices you make. So I created something called the happiness trigger assessment and identified 13
Wow.
happiness triggers, all based on research, things you can do every single day. And so you've mentioned my website before, but if you want to take that assessment, just go to ValerieBurton.com and click on assessments, and it will show you what your triggers are in order, right? So the
Wow.
ones you use the most. So I mentioned some of them. Some of them are really simple, like smiling is a happiness trigger. Literally, if you just like a real smile, when your cheeks puff up and your eyes crinkle, those muscles trigger the release of endorphins and serotonin. So you actually feel
Wow.
better when you smile. But movement is a happiness trigger, getting your blood flowing, even if just for a few minutes, changes your brain chemistry.
Mm.
Play, and men are great at play. Men actually bond through play, like side by side. As women, we bond face to face. Look at us sitting here talking. Both of those are happiness triggers, like actually connecting heart to heart with people. But play is like doing something just because you enjoy it, not necessarily because you have to be great at it. So it could be
Mm.
singing and you're a terrible singer, but you give yourself permission to sing. It could be painting. It could be whatever it is, playing with your kids or your pet. But finding those things, and some of the, I think, most profound ones are like service. Like that act of kindness actually makes you feel happier. Thinking about, okay, who do I know that might be feeling lonely right now or might need something right now? What neighbor could I drop?
Yes.
Drop a few groceries off for, or run an errand for, because I'm in a healthier category. Maybe they are older or
Mm.
have an underlying health condition. So looking for the things that you can do for others, and even your words are happiness triggers. I mean, the science
Wow.
shows that when we're looking at negative words, it actually triggers negative emotion. But
Mm.
when we're looking at words like yes or kind or love, it changes what our brain is feeling and actually releases those feel good chemicals. So there's simple things that we can do, but it really is the intentional choices that we make every day. So every day. So if you're in the 50% that's more pessimistic, and don't worry about that. I think it's a relief because, you don't force yourself to be something that you're not, but understand that the choices you make every day can change how you feel.
Isn't that so encouraging, though, when you think about how much And certainly we live in a nation that has afforded us so many choices. We travel a lot internationally. My husband works around the world, and you realize just what a blessing it is to be in a place that believes in choice, believes in self motivation, and all the things that we so often take for granted. But I love what you said, because I think too, as we get older, and I've noticed this now in my 50s, my sense of what I need to keep me sort of in that happiness zone is much more intuitive. Because over time, and for those of you that are watching that are maybe in your 20s and 30s, you know, what we're talking about is a great habit forming season in your 20s and 30s. Because when you realize kind of innately, I'll just wake up some days and I'll think, you know, I need to do a little more exercise today, or I just need to get out of the house, knowing that the trigger that's kind of off, and I think it's intuitive. You just begin to equalize. It's kind of like, you know, what you can eat and what you can't eat. You know how late you can drink caffeine and how late you can't drink caffeine.
Yep.
I mean, you learn to know what it takes. And as women, even those of us that are taking care of a lot of people in our family, no one's going to do it for ourselves if we're not doing it and putting ourselves enough of a priority to make sure we're doing that.
You know, I think, and it's about knowing that you do have those choices. And when you're noticing things feeling a little off, it's work. I mean, you know, if you're not feeling great, it is some work to intentionally say, no, I want to feel good. And here's the thing, feeling good is good. When we have more positive emotion and more joy, it actually helps us get through the difficulties. And so positive emotion literally builds up like a cushion over time, so that when we have difficulties, it's like falling onto a mattress.
Oh,
Whereas if we
that's
haven't
good.
had a lot, when we haven't had a lot of positive emotion, it's like falling onto concrete. So when you're having a difficult time, calling the funny friend, right? Watching the funny movie as opposed to the depressing one.
Right.
Those are small things. Or saying, what, you know, one of the things we do it sometimes over dinner, but definitely at night when we're tucking Alex in, we'll ask them, so what was your favorite part of the day? Or what was the best part of your day? Because that is gratitude. Noticing the good things that happen is gratitude. That's a happiness trigger. And sometimes you don't, you know, when you're just thinking about everything that's going wrong, I don't know about you, Lynette, but I've had occasion of like, I don't feel like writing a gratitude list right now. Like sometimes we're just,
totally.
we just have a bad attitude,
Definitely.
right? It's almost like, no, I want to feel bad today. But we can change that. And so with gratitude, it's not only what am I grateful for, or what's the best thing that happened, or what was my favorite part of the week, but reflecting on why you're grateful. So that actually creates more positive emotion. And when you think about this from a biblical perspective, it's all there, right? That a cheerful heart is good medicine, that we're supposed to be thankful, right? And so just practicing it, and it's practice, because it's not about what you feel like doing, it's about what you know will make a difference. And so just doing the things that if you practice it, it becomes more of a habit. I think sometimes if you're not in that frame of mind, you can look at someone that looks happy and, oh, she's happy because her life is just perfect. But especially when we're right here on Instagram, it's very easy to make a lot of assumptions about what people are dealing with or going through. And we have to be careful about not making those comparisons or judgments about what someone else's life is, and be intentional about being grateful for what we have.
Oh, I love that. That is so full of truth, and so full of a sense of possibility when we realize that we do have so many options. I mean, I've even been more careful in this time of so many things. You know how when you open up some of your different programs on the iPad or whatever, they'll feed you news headlines. And I've gotten so careful about ignoring those, because someone else who I've never met is deciding what collection of headlines should be given to Lynette Lewis. And rarely, in fact, never, are they going to know what my spirit needs, what my mind needs. And that's why challenging myself in the very first hours of the morning and the very last minutes of the night, putting the Word of God before me, even just one verse before I go to sleep. My mom taught me, if you will just memorize a Bible verse and fall asleep telling yourself the truth of God, what that will do, setting your spirit, because our spirits never sleep. Our minds and bodies sleep, but our spirits are very alive. And even in the morning, then, first thing, what am I going to set my heart and my affections on? It's such a discipline. It's not like I wake up thinking, I want to read the Bible. Most of the times I'm like, I want to check Instagram. I mean,
you're so right. And you know what I do that's similar to that is, so when I get up, because it is natural to, like, whatever those apps are you normally click on. So first of all, I don't watch TV news at all. And we hardly watch any television actually, but I put specific apps because I want to know what's going on in the world, but I go to those apps, and they're not cable apps. They're like Associated Press. Like, I just want to read the story and make the decision for myself.
Right.
About my opinion about the news. But that's really important. Don't leave the news on in the background, especially right now, because it literally will create a whole lot more anxiety. But I tell myself, okay, if I'm going to get on my phone in the morning, what's the first thing I allow myself to hit? It's actually my Bible app. And even if I'm not reading a devotional, you know, they've got the verse of the day. It's something I choose to do. And I have found myself clicking, like going over to a social media app and go, nope, that's not what you do. And so sometimes you have to talk to yourself, because look, all of the technology we have today is designed to not only like grab our attention, but keep our attention by creating algorithms that are very addictive. We can beat ourselves up, but I mean, we are fighting against just some basic human nature. Your basic human nature is to seek out as much information as possible. This is part of how we survived. You're like scanning the landscape for what threats are out there. And today that means consuming more information is just a natural, tendency that we have. And when you realize that, you can be very, very intentional about choosing what you're going to consume, what you're not going to consume. And sometimes that means removing some things altogether. So an audit on your phone is not a bad idea.
Well, it just reminds me, like, I correlate a lot to eating junk food. You know, the older you get, the more you realize, you see the results of what you've been eating all these years or what you've been doing physically. And I try to tell myself, you know, when I'm feeding my eyes, feeding my spirit, you know, I've got to be in balance. It's okay sometimes to be doing something, you know, where I'm scrolling through or whatever. That's not in itself going to be bad. But if I make a constant diet, then it's going to bear fruit in that direction. And so just becoming a real steward. And I think as moms and as those who are setting the culture for our home, so often we have to be diligent, and we can't just hope that it happens. We have to really make those choices. And you, I mean, honestly, we're gonna close here in a minute because we can't keep you all day, Valorie, but you have spent your life work. I love it because you've spent it doing research, but then you've turned that research into practical tools and help and resources for women in particular on how to think, how to speak, how to be proactive and intentional about the way they live. And I noticed on your website, I want to put a plug in for this. I noticed that you are offering your entire library of books for only $140. Girlfriend, that's like the best deal in the entire universe right now for all of this richness. Like, you add up how many hours of coaching that would be to get coaching from you. I'm being unabashed in my plug here. And you didn't know I was going to do that, but I have to, because this is the way we feed who we're becoming, is we listen and we ingest truth that sets us free. And you are a woman of truth. You've spent your life work. You're still so young and you're still doing it. Are you working on a new book by any chance, or what's coming? You've always got something.
Yes. We just had a meeting about the launch yesterday, and I'm super excited. So the book comes out September 1st, and it's called Let Go of the Guilt. Stop beating yourself up and take back your joy. So I'm super excited about it, because
I just got chills. Seriously, that is where we're living. That is huge.
Lots of guilt, especially women. It's not only women, but what I discovered is when you ask women about guilt, there's like this, like, where do you want to start? And I started realizing that when I was speaking, and decided that I would really start investigating and asking and finding out from women what's really going on with this.
Spent your life work. I love it because you've spent it doing research, but then you've turned that research into practical tools and help and resources for women in particular on how to think, how to speak, how to be proactive and intentional about the way they live. Mm-hmm. And I noticed on your website, I want to put a plug in for this. I noticed that you are offering your entire library of books for only $140. Girlfriend, that is like the best deal in the entire universe right now for all of this richness. Like, you add up how many hours of coaching that would be to get coaching from you. I'm being unabashed in my plug here. And you didn't know I was going to do that, but I have to, because this is the way we feed who we're becoming, is we listen and we ingest truth that sets us free. And you are a woman of truth. You've spent your life work. You're still so young and you're still doing it. Are you working on a new book by any chance, or what's coming? You've always got something.
Yes. We just had a meeting about the launch yesterday, and I'm super excited. So the book comes out September 1st, and it's called Let Go of the Guilt. Stop beating yourself up and take back your joy. So I'm super excited about it, because
I just got chills. Seriously, that is where we're living. That is huge.
Lots of guilt, especially women. It's not only women, but what I discovered is when you ask women about guilt, there's like this, like, where do you want to start? And I started realizing that when I was speaking, and decided that I would really start investigating and asking and finding out from women what's really going on with them.
So I can't hear you. I don't know why I can't hear you. Can someone tell me if they can hear me? Can you hear me? Good. So it sounds like Valerie's going to go and get her volume fixed. Thanks for telling us what's going on here. It's so funny. I don't know. Okay, so they're telling me that they can hear me. Gloria is saying, I can only hear you, Lynette. Okay, great. Isn't this so good, you guys? I mean, this is very, very empowering. This is saying to all of us that we can do this. We have the choice in it. Do you want to hang up and call me back? Do you want to, like, and then call me back? Here, let me do this. The joys of technology. You guys are, see if you can get me back here. Still can't hear you. So I hate to end on this note, but I wonder, Valorie, it may be because she's in her basement and she's having some technology work done down there. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for telling her what I asked. You guys are so great. We're all chipping in here to try to make it work. I appreciate it. It's hard for me to do this on my phone because my phone can, there we go. Okay, Valerie left, so she's going to call back in a minute, which will be great. Thanks, you guys, for sticking with me. I hope you've enjoyed this. I have found it to be so deeply affirming and encouraging. Just that what we're doing and what we're trying to do. Here we go. Let's see if I can bring her back. I'm wondering if she's having, there we go. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Okay.
You're back.
I don't know.
What I wonder?
Okay,
I wonder
I don't know, but I have a guess.
Yeah, no worries though.
I think my Bluetooth was on, and somehow randomly a speaker somewhere in my house like took the audio, and who knows where that speaker might be.
You know
what?
Or something. I can almost promise that is what it was. I was doing one of these one day. My Bluetooth was on. My nanny took the girls in the van, and they're driving off, and they're pulling me in there, and nobody on this could even hear me. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think that might be what happened. Sorry.
No worries. No worries at all. It's such a mystery, and I find it fascinating. But I love these lives, and I'm so glad you were willing to come on. And thank you for your grace yesterday. We had a mix-up. My fault. Valerie came on, and I was talking to another friend because I had it on the wrong day, and you were so full of grace to give me today. So thank you. I knew then that you were truly a working mom because you got where I was coming from.
It was absolutely fine. I'm glad we worked it out.
Oh, me too. Well, I sure appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for what you're doing. I cannot wait for your book on the guilt thing. And what I'd love for you to do, and if we can work this out, would you please let me know anytime over the next year when you're coming to New York City to do anything, please let me know. Because I want to have you come and we'll do one of these live Love Your Life events, which I do a couple times a year. Bring you in. Yeah. We'll chat. We'll bring all our girlfriends, a lot of whom are on the call today, and we'll just talk. We'll get it on film. We'll have a great time together.
That would be absolutely wonderful, and I'm praying that things will get back to some semblance of normal fairly soon, and everybody can just, you know, we cannot be so concerned about folks staying healthy and so forth, and travel won't be such a big deal. That will, yeah, I think if we do the right things, we'll see that happen. Yeah,
I know we make our living and traveling and doing all those things, and so it's, yeah, I'm believing with you. We're believing for that.
But you know what's really amazing is we've got this technology, and you know, we do a coach training event a few times a year, and this year,
last
month,
about that.
Well, we've been doing this for 10 years. It's the CAP Institute, Coaching and Positive Psychology, and we had our coach training intensive that was supposed to be here in Atlanta last month, and we took it online, and I was amazed at how well it went and how many people were grateful that we moved it online because they weren't able to come to Atlanta. Yes. We're doing another one again at the end of June, but the technology has really allowed us to be able to do things that we couldn't do in the past and to stay connected in ways that we could. I mean, when we met 15 years ago, we couldn't do what we're doing right in this moment.
No, that's so true.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I do see someone asking, when's the new book coming out? It comes out September 1st.
Yeah, when?
And I'm pretty excited about it. So we'll start talking about it next month and doing all the pre-orders and coming up with some goodies. It's online already if you want to pre-order it. But let go of the guilt. Stop beating yourself up and take back your joy.
Well, it's relevant.
I'm looking at questions. I don't even know if you want me to answer these questions, but what do you think is one?
And then we'll wrap it up because we've been going about 45 minutes. She says, what is one source of the guilt you mentioned? Can you guys hear her, or did she go silent? Let me know, girls or guys, whoever's watching, because I can't hear you anymore. I know. So strange. Can you hear me and not hear Valorie? Let me know if that's going on again. Can't hear her. Okay. Your sound went out. Oh, well, I'll say bye-bye. Love you. Thank you. See you. All right, guys, we'll end for now.